Hello, Stoughtonites. My name is Lisa Lyons, and welcome to the Lioness You on the Watch. As a bit of a background, my career has been of an auditor and a controller. In full transparency, I am also a frustrated town meeting rep and a frustrated finance committee member. I've noticed the fiscal landscape of Stoughton is sometimes like a jungle. It's been very hard to find or even ask for basic information and to get a straightforward, complete answer. There's no comprehensive combined capital plan between the schools and between the municipal government. It seems like there's a war or a collusion working against the taxpayer. Instead, it's haphazard spending, the house is on fire approach without a complete roadmap. And you, the Stoughton taxpayer, deserve a complete roadmap. We need this capital plan to get a complete financial report to all the town meeting reps at least once a year at town meeting. So we need a combined capital plan and a complete financial report to town meeting at least yearly. We need a one Stoughton approach to managing our town. All we want as a main goal is for our governments to provide services with the most cost-effective and practical spending habits, coupled with due diligence. That is currently not the case. The Select Board, School Committee, and the majority of current town meeting representatives display predatory practices with your hard-earned tax dollars. And the goal is I want to help you protect your hard-earned income from a lack of due diligence and reckless spending. We've got to get this under control, and the show seeks to engage and inform you of relevant financial and other matters affecting your pocketbooks and what we as citizens and town meeting reps can do about it. The first step is we need to get new town meeting reps who do not act like drunken shopaholics and just say yes to everything that's presented before them without having that roadmap I was mentioning earlier. So the show's aim is to let you, the public, know what we can do to fix this problem. I created, in my frustration of seeing town meeting representatives being cut off when they're trying to find out information that's trying to protect the public, it just led me to what can I do about this? So I went to see if there was a town committee or some type of coalition that I could create, a community of taxpayers who felt like I did, that our current leadership, whether it be the school committee, the select board, or current town meeting reps, are not fully representing the taxpayers as evidenced by the latest local election on the South School project. The town meeting representatives voting for this project are not representing the majority of taxpayers in town. And this is why I created a town committee. I went to join one, but there was already a Democrat party, so I asked, is there a Republican town committee? And they said no, so I actually founded that. And we have exponentially been growing as a community, and it is really not even party affiliated. It is a group of people who are concerned with the lack of fiscal due diligence being done in town and without comprehensive plans being put in place. So I don't want the town committee disparaged when they're actually encouraging leadership in this town to do the right thing. So the fiscal policies we're looking to have implemented are fiscal policies that are recommended by the Mass Municipal Association and by the Government Finance Officers Association. When a town has these policies in place, it will put guardrails in place on money so that it doesn't matter how much money you take in as long as it keeps going out the door and nothing is being carved out in debt management or put into stabilization or reserve funds for these capital projects. The latest one that they're trying to get built is the South School. So there are experts, I'm told over and over again by yes voters for the school, that we have no plan. We absolutely do have plans. Having a solid fiscal policies in place creates fiscal structure and stability, and it will regain the trust of the taxpayers once we see our leaders following a fiscally prudent plan. This is not my plan or other plans, except the experts. They say we should listen to experts. This is where we need to listen to the experts. When they're talking about listening to the experts on building a school, they make their money, the vendors make their money based on a percentage of the cost of the project. When you build your home, you do not have the architect build you a Taj Mahal. You tell the architect, here's my budget, this is what I need to stay in because we have all these other expenses coming up. That's the roadmap. That's how you determine your budget. That's what we expect our leaders to do here. And we need a one Stoughton approach. What do I mean by that? We need to really build trust. How do you build trust? You do not attack each other over and over again and try to discredit somebody who is putting actual facts on the table and putting forth actual solutions on the table and then just ignore them. The way to do that is an example what Mansfield did. They have 2 members of their school committee, probably a chair and vice chair, 2 members of their select board, and members of the finance committee. We currently have a finance committee whose job it is to put forth recommendations, and it is the select board's duty to implement some kind of fiscal policies. And we just heard at a select board meeting recently that there's fiscal policies that they're following. There is no written, voted on fiscal policies that are best practices, as I just mentioned, with the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association. That is leaving taxpayers, you and I, exposed to all this reckless spending. Again, we're looking for written fiscal adopted policies and a true collaboration. You cannot collaborate with people who are assaulting you, slandering you, defaming you. That is not creating a welcoming Stoughton. We've got to have our leaders stop talking out of both sides of their mouths. You can't say you're welcoming and then ignore very valid solutions that would allow a new school built for children or other capital projects. You cannot ask taxpayers to spend millions upon millions of dollars without showing them the roadmap. I believe courage begets courage, and I want action to beget action to force our leaders into a position. And I can tell you we're making a huge difference. I just heard the other night on the school committee, it happened to be the superintendent in this case, he's never heard the use of the word free cash in capital plan so much in his life. Well, that's because that's how we drive prudent fiscal policy and safety for the residents of Stoughton, the taxpayers. We need to care about the hard working class families in this town. The policies matter, and right now, all the grabbing of grant money is creating a more and more elite with an increased poverty, and it's going to squeeze out the middle class. We have to put the brakes on that, and the way to do that is to slow it down and gain the trust of the taxpayers yet again. So I would like to show if we could bring up an example of what I mean by a complete fiscal policy. So right here, you can see that up at the top, it says financial policies. Financial policies with regard to debt, and that's what future shows. I will go into explaining what all these things are. All these things should be being explained to the town meeting reps every year by our leadership. The select board needs to put these policies in place. First of all, you have to have a finance committee being willing to debate these. We can't even get it on the agenda. The current chair of the finance committee is so biased toward the schools, he's not allowing a full comprehensive discussion at all. And you can see with the recent town meeting in November, when a very wise town meeting rep wanted to ask the question, what percent of our budget goes to a stabilization fund, which is basically a savings plan? She was told by our finance director, mind you, it's not relevant to the article. I beg to differ. When we have articles put before a town meeting, articles are all kinds of spending money, okay? And it is unacceptable for town meeting reps who want to understand how all this spending fits into an overall comprehensive plan to say it's not relevant. The culture in Stoughton to hide this information from the public cannot stand. Okay, so as you can see here, again, financial policies, that involves a discussion on debt inside the budget, outside the budget. It also involves free cash, the use of free cash, investments, financial reserves. That's another word for that is stabilization funds that we're always talking about. And then you've got your capital investment, enterprise funds, independent audits and financial reporting. We're not getting a comprehensive, complete financial report. We're getting piecemeal. Here's your bond rating. Oh, by the way, here's a revenue sheet. We should be getting a report card at annual town meeting. And this is according to the Government Finance Officers Association of Best Practices. And you can also see there's capital improvement plan and there's financial forecasting. I almost fell off the chair when I was watching a recent select board meeting. We see Selectman Carrara trying to reduce the levy. When you reduce the levy, it prevents the departments from taking all that money. I'll do a little diagram right here. Just a circle, it's a pie. We're supposed to have this much debt inside the budget to be paying for things like the South School, like these capital projects, okay? I've just heard recently our town manager talk about debt avoidance. There's part of fiscal policies is absolutely to have debt management within the budget. See all the rest of this space over here? Can everybody see that? All that rest of the space, all here, is all the other departments constantly gobbling up that money no matter how fast the revenue comes into the town. We have no policies in place to say how much of that revenue should be going to a stabilization fund. Granted, the town manager is also saying, oh, nothing can be earmarked. But if we have a policy in place, when we get to town meeting as town meeting reps, we can say, what is our overall budget? What percentage of that budget is going to go into capital expenses? Last May, whatever town meeting we had, it's just a, here's all the spending articles, let's just vote on it. And all the majority of the town meeting reps, they can't say no. They have no idea how to say no or how it fits into this overall plan. That is hurting every single taxpayer of this town, and we cannot allow it to continue. That's why it's very important to get town meeting reps to help demand these policies be put in place. Okay, we'll talk more in other shows about the debt management, the free cash. So right now for this upcoming budget season that we're talking about right now, they say, oh, we finally got to zero free cash. But you know what they're doing? They're using all the new growth. It was just a money grab from all the new construction, and we have a significant new growth. Plus, we just had TIF money roll off the books, which is forever money, with no talk of savings and what percentage of our budget is going to be put in place. What they are talking about is something from 2020, as I said earlier, which doesn't even come close to this financial. It's just suggestions. They talk about dollar amounts. You can't talk about dollar amounts when you have inflation year over year. It needs to be percentages of your budget is going to be saved or what else is happening? We have all this money right now that can be used to pay for assault school. They could have started on this on June 12th. The voters spoke and they've ignored it. And instead, I don't know how the town manager is involved with this working group, but the working group put out an executive summary where in the first paragraph, it actually says it's what I call master manipulation and a scare tactic. You'll see what I mean in a minute. They say the Salt School's going to have to close within a year or two. And in the very next paragraph, it says, but if we build this Taj Mahal, okay, we can keep the Salt School open to 2029 or 2030. If they can do that then, they can do that now. So the yes voters don't even understand that they're harming their children as well as themselves as taxpayers. I want to skip over to the original total budget. So right here, this is the report where I said it was increasing taxes by 6.44%. If you compare these rates on this chart, you've got the average single family value at $474,512, I believe it is. And then you've got a residential tax rate at $1,355. Okay, and then from there, they're calculating your average tax bill. Now, I don't know if anybody has seen their average tax bill. So that's where it's coming. The manipulation is coming from every single year that residential tax rate changes. And every single year, our assessed value is also changing. So just in 1 year, or less than a year, they put out this project cost and they said where on here it says $400 to $420 would be an extra as if it was a debt exclusion. Now mind you, we can pay for this inside here with no debt exclusion, no tax override. That's what the taxpayers are demanding. We are not going to let the middle class get squeezed out of this town. So now, I don't know if people have seen a regular tax bill, but here's a tax bill. So if you look at the tax bill here, you'll see that residential rate at $1,355. And if you look over where it says total valuation, it's $444,300. And then you divide that $444,300 by 1,000, so you get 444.3 times that $13.55 residential rate, and that's where you get your real estate tax bill that you'll see on there for $6,020. Now this is just one person's bill. Every taxpayer, you may not see this because you may have your town, your tax bill go to your bank, but I can assure you the next year, the residential tax rate was reduced down to 12 point something, I believe, on the new projected cost. But you'll notice that the tax rate's going up. And the tax rate is going up because the average single family value jumped over $100,000. So these are the master manipulations and games that are being played to force a debt override down the taxpayer's throat. So we can't allow that to continue. So this is just an example. There is no misinformation with the information that was given out. Nobody's taxes has gone down. They've all gone up. So let's be real and stop calling the people who want prudent fiscal policies and prudent managing of our hard-earned tax dollars to be disparaged or to say we don't care about kids. We currently have, like I said before, we have a town manager and the building committee colluding against the taxpayer to force this Taj Mahal down the throats of the taxpayer. So I want to get into the disparagement that is not helping. So if we can go to the Mansfield slide for 1 minute, that might be back to. What Mansfield did, and this is a slide, when they faced these very difficult, very contentious sides of government, school versus municipal, Okay, they formed these committees where we need to rebuild trust in the town. So like I said before, 2 school committee members, 2 select board members, 2 finance committee members. And we need to work in a fiscal financial framework that protects the taxpayers. It can't be a money grab against the taxpayers. There is no money tree. I've said it many times, and we need to be cognizant of that. So if we could go to the Joe Buckley video to see what we're up against. And this is the type of thing that is not trust building, it's not welcoming, and it's very detrimental. It's creating a horrible culture here in Stoughton, and we cannot allow this.
I think we got to attack the credibility of the handful of no voters that are the most vocal, because they are spewing misinformation, and we somehow have to take an approach that marginalizes them. Because I have to believe that the vast majority of the no voters were not as adamant as the handful that were the most vocal. So I think what we got to take is get their rhetoric and somehow turn it back on them.
So as you can tell, to discredit someone, there's nothing to discredit. I showed you right here the manipulations that are taking place. It's disingenuous to call people who are concerned about overpaying for things that need to be segregated or misaligned. It's just a horrible situation. We can't allow this to continue. So I also want to play the South School Committee video this says it all. We went, I'll have you know, I went to the town manager and said no one from the Stoughton No More Tax Hike campaign is gloating over this vote. We want a new school for the kids. We need to work collaboratively. And the result of that is none of the people who are pointing out real information to the taxpayers were invited to join that committee. Our committees in Stoughton are one-sided. Our leaders say they're welcoming, they say they have policies in place, but they don't have the best practices, and nothing has ever been voted on. We need written policies that we can rely on, and we need leadership that is protecting the taxpayer. At a moment, here we have the superintendent admitting it is not a subset. There was a 23% voter turnout in this South School election in June that they're now trying to force down the taxpayer's throat yet again, because current town meeting reps do not represent the taxpayers of this town. And I'm working to change that. And our leaders need to understand that. There is a deep frustration with the lack of ability and the censorship of real information real complete information getting to the taxpayer.
The building committee cannot swap land, but does Fano Drive get put back into discussions? There's a cost, and the cost that those of us that were involved know that the cost is not realistic. Plus adding the work. I think it's really, really important for our professionals to really have those deep discussions with MSBA about what truly are the routes that we can take with this. And then the building committee, your work, that I, of course, will support. And I believe the school committee may be joining you on the 20th as well. How do we change this? I mean, the politics of education are always interesting, but 600 votes in a local vote is not 100 votes. That's a lot of minds to change. And I'll be very honest, I don't think there is a number for a population of folks on this. I just don't think there is. It's a hard no. So the question becomes, what is that number? And how do we get 77% of more people to vote? At the end of the day, 23% of the people carried the day. I mean, that's good in a Stoughton election. I mean, those of us that have been involved in local politics know that we get people elected all the time with 3%, 6%, less than 10%. And this was a good turnout. Not the one I wanted, but the fact was it was a good turnout. And I don't know if the committee has any willingness to talk to leaders of the no vote and say, so what is the number? What's the number?
Or what's the issue?
Or what are the issues? What's the number? And say, okay, we hear you. So, and I don't want to use this phrase. I don't want to kowtow to anything. I want to find out more information because I have a really hard time that there is a number.
Okay, so right there you had heard some very important information, okay? You heard him admit that there was the highest voter turnout, and yet we hear the petitioner of the article to do a revote say it was a subset of the population. It is not a subset of the population who care about the exorbitant pricing of projects. Okay, the square foot that superintendent told us at the working group, which is not transparent. You can't say you're transparent and then hold working group meetings at 5:30 at night and then not allow these cameras in to watch them. That is wholly not transparent. This superintendent said the square foot price of that construction is $900, where you can just go to the MSBA website and see that other surrounding towns can build brand new elementary schools in the 300 square foot. That's the exorbitantly priced designs, okay, that our leaders are putting forth. So when he asks for a number, we want a reasonable number. That is a radical, exorbitant number. Okay, now further to discuss that working group, the no voters were asked to speak and presented our solution to them. There's two avenues. Now, mind you, this is what our leaders should be asking our builders to. That's why the budget's important. You don't allow them to build an exorbitantly priced building. We told them you could build it right now with money inside the budget. The problem is they're working against the taxpayers because they don't want to reduce any of this money. They want to keep taking all the new growth and just building this up bigger and bigger and bigger. We cannot allow that. And that is the purpose of this show. As we go on, I will let you know more of what happens. I want to finish off on the Heidi clip. I've told you the no voters have solutions. It was ignored. And now I want to show you this is the mentality we are trying to get rid of.
When I put out the budget templates to all the budget makers, I actually added a tab this year that they didn't have in the past, where we basically said, please put down all of your needs. Don't hold back, whatever it is. A lot of it's personnel that they've asked for, but some of it's some other things.
Okay, so there you have it. It's not only fear tactics, it's master manipulation, and we've got to stop it, okay? The experts and our leadership are not being good stewards of our money, so please join me next time on A Lioness and You on the Watch. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.